Shailaja and Lalitha followed with a chat regarding positive relationships and how individuals should respond during crisis, whether it affects one personally or their neighbors and their friends. I would first like to introduce Rani Shailaja Dharmaraju, a volunteer caseworker at Mai Family Services for the past 9 years. She assists Mai Family Services with case management, crisis intervention, training volunteers, and providing clinical training as needed to the community and staff. She has a master's degree in social work from the University of Michigan and has worked in the field of community health for 25 years. She is a health services supervisor at Washtenaw Community Mental Health and a therapist at Mindful Counseling in Ann Arbor. Her experience in the field of social work and mental health assists her in providing support and assistance to individuals who are victims of domestic violence. Welcome, Shailaja.
Thank you, Ananya. Thank you for the wonderful introduction and facilitating this wonderful webinar. The COVID crisis, as everyone knows, is an unprecedented crisis that has created so much turmoil in the whole world. I think this is a timely webinar to assist us to look at all the issues that it is causing within the community and within our own South Asian community, and what we can do to assist with creating solutions and alleviating potential concerns. I think this is also a time for reconnection and collaboration in the community, and try to alleviate some of the stress, because the stress causes a lot of potential issues in families. And I hope this webinar will throw some light on some of those solutions and some ways in which we can collaborate with each other and collaborate with individuals in the community to assist them with the issues that they're dealing with.
Thank you, Shailaja. That was very informative and topical to what we're going through today. Now I would like to invite Lalitha Ghosh. She is a licensed social worker with a master's in social work from the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor. She's worked in clinical settings for 34 years and has been with Mai Family Services since 2016. Welcome, Lalitha.
Thank you, Ananya. Thank you, Ananya, for being the moderator for this webinar. Like Shailaja, I also agree that it is very timely based on the situation in the world. And I think that this is particularly timely because I think our community, many of our clients, many potential clients are facing particularly difficult times because of their status here, which is uncertain, and it creates a lot of anxiety and anger and depression, and people are unable to handle these kinds of situations. I would like people to know that we are here to help them and support them in every way that we can.
Lalitha, thank you for sharing your thoughts about this significant and critical topic. Before I start the conversation, I would like participants to type their questions using the chat window anytime during this session. We will do our best to answer all of your questions if we have not covered the same in our conversation. Thank you. So, Lalitha, during this period, how do we maintain a positive mindset and avoid conflicts in the family, specifically between spouses and between parent to child?
Well, I think because of the unprecedented times of great uncertainty and worry about everyday issues, those issues become magnified and could lead to volatility and violence in the family. The most vulnerable families during these times are people who are have been unable to develop appropriate channels to resolve conflict and to communicate with each other. These stressful times also lead to heightened anxiety, depression, which could lead to emotional instability, possibly resulting in domestic violence. These difficult times are testing the best of us. Socioeconomic issues intertwined with health issues are causing concerns for families, and they're reacting and not responding to the issues. It is recommended that families and adults in the families become aware of the potential emotional effects of emotional and physical isolation from family, friends, and community, and develop some practical ways to alleviate some of the stresses that they feel. And for emotional comfort, a good idea would be to create a supportive environment for your children, and a supportive environment for each other, for spouses. Continue to connect with family, friends, and community through various forms of communication which we have available to us. Exercise, go for walks, engage in fun activities at home, such as having a time to sit down and play cards and engage in board games. And also, very importantly, it's because we are spending so much time together, there's no time to be alone. It is important to find some time to spend by yourself, whether it's in contemplation, in meditation, in exercise, yoga, but just some time to self-reflect and have some space to center. Reading is a good activity. Many churches and temples and spiritual groups are doing different programs to help people be connected to their services. So I think with all of these suggestions, there are many avenues to alleviate the stress the situation has caused.
Thank you. Shailaja, now, as neighbors and good citizens, how can we look for signs of distress in our friends or neighbors?
That is a good question, Ananya, because I think every human being likes to be helpful to others and likes to assist others. And as Lalita said, this is really an unusual time. It's a difficult time. And there's so many different types of forms, distress and problems that people are dealing with. Some of the families have to cope with so many changes. It could be simple problems related to sharing of the space in the house, like the wife and husband both working from home, children doing homework at home, and the parents are struggling with that issue. And sometimes people are bored, children are bored, people want to eat more. All those simple things, these are actually simple things, to the complicated things, which are unemployment, financial issues, not having the basic necessities. There's so many families that are struggling with, the food and, getting food, having money to buy food, and having, even different ways to buy medicine or medication sometimes. These potential issues are becoming so big that, like Lily says, that there are more chances of domestic violence because there's increased frustration, increased anxiety, and increased disagreements, amongst people, and people are behaving in ways that are not normal to them. It is a very good practice for us to be connected with our neighbors and friends and families too, even if they're distant. We're so fortunate that we are in the Zoom age, literally, because we can Zoom anybody, we can Microsoft Team anybody, we can FaceTime anybody. There's so many different media options that we always should be aware of and use them to connect with people. Having the options, sometimes we don't use them because they'll be fine, everyone's fine. And as neighbors, offer support in whatever way you can to reach out to the community resources. I know so many individuals, even in this group, are making face masks, they're reaching out to people, making sure that elderly people have groceries, doing shopping for them, going to different places to assist them. So, those are some of the definitely wonderful things that people can do to help them with, the smaller issues that I mentioned. Now it's these complicated issues related to any stress that you see in the family. And unfortunately, this is some of the tips that I would mention below are tips that can be, in your mind, even when there is no crisis, because these are things that we should be mindful of when you are aware that some of your neighbors are dealing with complex issues. If you feel they're dealing with some emotional anger issues or complex issues like violence, it is essential that you offer them support. Your instinct might be to, okay, let me go save them. Let me, go talk to the husband. Let me pull her out. But one of the things is it's not that easy. It's not that easy at all, because there are many reasons why people stay in abusive relationships or violent relationships, and leaving can be very dangerous even to them. And some of us, if we're neighbors and we see something, if we see a scar on somebody's face or anything, we want to immediately jump in and rescue them. But we have to be very careful about making sure that we are supportive with them, We listen to them, you be non-judgmental, because we usually judge a lot. We say, that man is a bad man or this man is a bad man. We should try not to be judgmental and continue to be supportive of them. Remember, you cannot rescue them. You would just be there to support them. Be supportive to them and just listen to them. And I know it is very difficult to see someone you care about getting hurt. And when you see those signs, you feel that they are the ones, you need to go and rescue them because you're the better person. Or, we all want to rescue them as human beings. But ultimately, the person who makes the decision is the person who is dealing with the situation, who's dealing with the violence. Just support them no matter what happens, what they decide, and help them to find a place to safety and peace. Make sure that you offer them supports, resources. Make sure that you talk to them about things. Give them a flyer of My Family Services or give them a website link. Let them make that decision. Give them the telephone numbers. And if you feel that it's getting to a point where it's too difficult for you to handle, please call the My Family Services hotline. We'll give it to everybody at the end of the show. And if it is getting to a point where it is even, it is after hours and you have not been able to reach somebody from My Family Services, call 911 or call the National Domestic Violence Hotline. That way, somebody will intervene, somebody will support the person and offer them the right resources that they would need for that situation. But I really appreciate this question because as neighbors, we all have to be very mindful, very be supportive, and offer as much collaboration as possible in difficult situations like this.
That's very good information. Lalita, I'd like to direct this next question to you as you talked about it previously, but there is so much negativity surrounding the COVID-19 crisis, particularly in the news or online. So how do we handle this news and how do we deal with our emotions and feelings, as some people may be feeling a heavy amount of anxiety or depression during this time?
Well, the thing is that the current situation, just by the nature of it, creates anxiety and could lead also to depression, depending on the circumstances of the individuals. The first thing we have to remember is that if somebody is experiencing a severe amount of anxiety or depression, one that's causing them to have thoughts of self-harm or harm to others, the first thing they should do is go to an emergency room. If that's not the situation and you're having an increased symptoms, you can always call your doctor to help you either with medication, use telehealth so you don't have to go into the office. Psychotherapists are also available via telehealth. If you're assigned to a social worker at My Family Services, please call. The social worker will provide emotional support, counseling, and guidance, and make a referral if necessary. I just want to state that these times are very stressful and negative emotions become heightened and create unstable situations for our clients and their families. Because many of our clients' jobs may be threatened by the current situation through layoffs. Many of our clients cannot avail themselves of benefits that are available. So, they have to sort of find out what things are available in the community. We could help them with that. We ourselves are, able to help to some extent. But it's important to remember to monitor one's reactions during and use skills to not escalate a negative situation. And because a negative situation, when escalated, can create an environment that is ripe for getting out of control and causing harm. But when volatility is imminent rather, I think the most important thing is for someone to separate themselves from the situation by either leaving the house, going to a separate part of the house or apartment, and de-escalating the situation. Engaging in this kind of conflict just creates a no-win situation and exposes our victims of domestic violence to potential danger. I would say most importantly, if there's a history of aggression in the family, please stay safe and always keep your phones charged and with you at all times so you can call 911. In addition, keep an emergency bag ready so you can leave at a moment's notice. The bag should contain important documents such as medication and your documents such as passport, etc. However, if you're unable to prepare these documents and you have to leave the house, please leave the house, but do not return without police escort. It's very important that victims do not return on their own into a volatile situation because it can be very, very dangerous.
Thank you, Lalitha. That's very important information. Shailaja, I'd like to turn this question back to you. So how is our community specifically affected by the COVID-19 crisis, with many people being on work visas who may face or are currently facing unemployment?
Ananya, about the community and the effect of COVID-19. I think everyone is an expert here because we watch so much of that on the TV. I'm going to specifically focus on the South Asian population and the people who, we are working with or trying to assist through Mai Family Services. One of the biggest, aspect of the clients that we serve are many of them are immigrants who come in with H-1 visas. And we have a lot of individuals who might be green card holders, but who might be working in labor kind of jobs, with NYX or some of those companies where, in McDonald's or other places where they have either contractual or hourly work or temporary employment. And that is a huge, huge impact on them because, as you know, more than 22 million Americans have filed for unemployment. And this is based on the Washington Post I think, a couple of days ago. And so it might be even more today. And apparently 134,000 Michigan residents have filed for unemployment due to the COVID crisis. And so basically, this is also again about 3 days ago or 4 days ago. So the data now might be even more bad. So what happens is because they're on these H-1 visas or contract jobs, many of the individuals that we serve are laid off or without employment. And some people cannot get unemployment because of their visa status or their citizenship status. So, they're affected with unemployment, and so because of the unemployment, they have other issues that kind of, the rent, and of course now people cannot be evicted out of their apartments because of the state ruling for everyone. So that is a good thing, but some people are not able to pay rent, or some people are not having food. Those kind. Of course, we coordinate and try to assist them with that part of it, like try to get them different links to get. Either the unemployment money, because there is one unemployment link where people who are not regular workers, who are not paid workers, can also get unemployment, even if they have 1099 or contract workers. And also there are some people who are not able to get the stimulus checks. Like, many individuals would get stimulus checks if they're below a certain income limit, but some of them, because they are on different visa status, cannot even get the stimulus checks. So try to link them up with different resources that are out there in the community, whether it's for food, whether it's for living, and whether it's for money. So all those different things are definitely what we try to look for. But the other problem, which is like one of the biggest reasons why we are here, is that all that unemployment, all those economic situations definitely causes a huge disruption in the life of the person. So some of the stresses, if that was even calmed down a little because they have a job and they have money and they have food, becomes a bigger crisis at this time, they then tend to become violent, and then some. We have noticed, I mean, traditionally or generally, there is research that shows that because of the lockdown, there is an increase in violence, domestic violence in homes. We have not received this number of increased calls in My Family Services. It's not because it's not there, but it's because people are afraid to call because the perpetrators are at home. Several of us caseworkers have received texts from women who say, hey, I can't call you now because he's at home. So that is the impact that we are more concerned about. That is like a huge impact and huge, like a difficulty, disruption in the life of the woman, or disruption in the life of the person who's dealing with the violence. I don't want to say just woman. And then, not the financial, not only the socioeconomic and the financial aspects, but the emotional aspects, emotional turmoil, and the safety of the person. So this is one of the huge effect or impact that we are noticing from our perspective for the due to the COVID-19 situation.
So the last question I have before we move to questions from our audience, but what is My Family Services doing at this time to support the community? And what helplines are available, and what are some resources available to the public?
So My Family Services is very much still open, functioning, waiting for calls from people who need our assistance. Actually, we've been open, our phone lines have been open throughout the crisis, and we've been responding to new clients and addressing the needs of current clients, and we will continue to do that. Outreach is another way to educate the community on the issue of domestic violence. The My Family Services website is also available for people to access and get information. My Family Services social workers are available to assist clients through counseling and providing emotional support. In addition, we continue to liaison with shelters, lawyers, police departments, prosecutors, and other community resources. We have a resource directory available, and we use this information to connect clients to community resources, which may be able to provide them with assistance. My Family Services also is able to provide immediate assistance in the form of groceries, transportation, and temporary rental relief. Similar to other agencies, though, when we provide assistance, we do a detailed financial assessment to determine eligibility. So we're reaching out in many different ways to the communities, to our community, to support them and to let them know what is available to assist them in any way to continue their lives.
Thank you, Lalitha. That's very, very informative. So, one thing that's really important right now is the stay-home order could be a safe place for most people, but not for our clients. So how would you suggest that anyone in this situation should deal with that?
Ananya, I cannot hear you.
Basically, in a situation where there is a lockdown, and you're implying that if there's a lockdown and somebody is living in a situation where they feel they're at danger?
Yes.
Because if somebody feels endangered and they, but the best thing would be to call 911, if not the My Family Services hotline. And if somebody is not able to reach to any of them, if they can communicate to one of their neighbors who can assist them with that process, or a friend who can assist them with the process. Of late, we have noticed, as caseworkers, we've noticed a lot of women who are abandoned, by their partners. And so they are in situations where they're pretty much alone, frightened, and lost with not having the resources. And so when they call My Family Services, just as Lalitha mentioned, there are so many resources where we do we call in, do the counseling, assist them, and link them to different resources. And then we try to provide them with whatever supports that they need at that particular time to deal with the situation.
So we have a couple of questions from our audience. So the first one is, when the individual is with a perpetrator at home and we realize that the individual is in a situation and unable to call, especially during the crisis, do you suggest we, as an outsider, call 911 for them since the individual can't initiate a call?
This is a good question, but this is a very difficult question also, as I had mentioned earlier. Yes, that is our first instinct, to save them from that relationship. But it is something that we have to confirm with the person if that is what she wants us to assist with. And if we're not able to do that and we're noticing that they are being in a situation that's we are uncomfortable with the situation that they are in, call protective services, adult protective services, call 911, call My Family Services hotline during the day, and we would be more than happy to assist and guide with those situations. There have been situations where we did get calls like that, where somebody, an uncle from Chicago or aunt from Washington DC, who call and said, hey, this person needs help. And so what we do is we try to offer them all the resources. And so we can't go into the My Family Services workers can't call the person and say, do you need help, because she won't talk to us. But if APS or the Sheriff's Department are aware that there is this situation, they can call and they call it, just a domestic checkup. They'll just call and they'll say, hey, a wellness check. They will call and say, are you okay? And try to verify if the person is safe.
Thank you. So Lolita, what is My Family Services doing to find employment to current survivors who have lost their jobs, assuming some of them would be single parents struggling to take care of their homes with valid work visas?
So we do have volunteers and people on the board who do assist with employment, help people write up resumes. And so if the person who's lost their job is on a visa where a job can be found for them, then we will exhaust all the avenues we have available to assist that person, whether it's through the community or linking them up with the community resources to help them find employment.
Thank you for answering that question. Participants, do we have any more questions? Oh, we just have one here. So the participant asks, can you please explain what we should do if we see some stress between couples, but we don't know them very well?
That is a good question. And, and we encounter that a lot. And in our lives, we see people struggling with different issues. But there again, it is one of the most important things as outsiders we have to remember is that we cannot rescue them. We have to be supportive and listen to them. And if you don't know them, then maybe, just offer them the resources that are out there. They can talk to counselors, they can talk to therapists, but they may not even be willing to listen to that. They may not even be willing to get that help from us. And it is the only thing we can be for them is good supports, be non-judgmental, and continue to support them in whatever they're dealing with and assist them with offering the resources.
That's a good answer. Do we have any more questions from our audience? You can give it a moment. So someone else would like to know about the financial assistance policy of My Family Services.
So if a client were to reach out to us and say they need financial assistance, then we do have a protocol that we follow to determine if the person is eligible for financial assistance. If we, and it all works quite quickly. We don't, since we're all pretty much connected to each other, none of this takes like a long time. But we do need that information in order to assess whether whether the person, the client, is eligible, and then at that time we'll make a determination. And we have our agency has a quick way of transferring money to people if they need it, or helping them with rent or transportation using Uber and other resources like that.
Mm-hmm. And I'd also like to add that we try to exhaust the community resources. We try to assist them with getting public housing, community bank, food banks, and other things, so that they can also get have that feeling of independence, and that they're not obligated to us.
Another question we have from our audience is that the number of deaths has crossed 50,000. So how do we deal with that stress that we have just knowing that so many people around us have died?
That is a very, very relevant question, because it is we're very fortunate. I was talking to Mona a little bit earlier. We're very fortunate that none of our clients have been touched. Cross my fingers. And I thank God for that part of it. But yes, listening to TV and listening to the deaths, of COVID is very heart-wrenching. It's heart-wrenching to anybody. One of the things we request people in general, I mean, it's not just for our survivors and their families, but for people in general, media sometimes has a very good way of presenting information, but it might be presenting the same information several times. And when it does that, what starts as a thought becomes a worry, what becomes a worry becomes an anxiety, what becomes an anxiety becomes like a complete stress or even a panic attack in some cases. So it is very essential that people stop it at the first stage. Yes, I'm sorry that so many people died, but I will say a prayer. Do whatever makes you feel comfortable. That say a prayer, take a walk. Basically see if you can help someone. Like many ladies in this group are making face masks, donating gloves, doing whatever you can to alleviate the situation. Because like we mentioned in the beginning, this is unprecedented. This has never happened before in our lifetimes, and maybe earlier in 1918. But, basically at this point of time, all that we can do is minimize the media, bombarding of, all the different things, keep ourselves in a safe place, and try to be mindful of helping others in our life to assist them.
Thank you. Participants, do we have any further questions?
And then, I know there was a question earlier from someone who said, what would we do if somebody asked us for medical attention? If they called us and said, I'm dealing with these medical issues, what should we do? Just wanted to clarify that all the caseworkers in Mai Family Services are social workers. So what we would do is we would ensure that we connect them to the healthcare resources or healthcare supports. We as social workers do not make healthcare decisions. However, we would, support them and say, if this is what you need to do, please, we can give you this number, please call this number, please do this. So we do not make healthcare decisions or diagnoses, but we would assist them in reaching out to the right supports in order to alleviate their medical concerns or healthcare issues that they're dealing with.
That is a very, very good point. Thank you. At this time, I would like to thank Shailaja and Lalita for being here today and giving us some very, very important information and tips regarding the COVID crisis. We have one more question before I wrap up for today. How can the partners help each other when there's a potential for job loss or health-related mental stress? And the participant wants to clarify by saying if one of the spouses may get anxious frequently.
So, it's important to remember that everyone is feeling a certain level of anxiety through these times. And people who already have a propensity to experience anxiety may experience the heightened level of anxiety. And it's important to, know what your partner is going through and be supportive rather than critical, and help them work through that situation, either by talking, distracting, engaging in an activity, and talking openly about what is going on. I mean, what are, some families, they just may be anxious, and there really is no need for it. But if there is a need for it, to honestly talk about what's going on and be forthright and upfront, and so that people know where things stand. Honesty is very important.
Mm. And Ananya, I would like to also add that in South Asian community especially, seeking counseling, seeking therapy, seeking outside help is a big taboo. And people do not want to recognize and identify their own mental health issues or substance abuse issues. And, sometimes when it could be a small anxiety and big anxiety, it is always better to seek professional help. All insurances pay for it. So it's just passing that message to people, because sometimes, the younger generation is very good at seeking help if they have certain issues, but especially the older generation or the middle generation, they find it really hard to seek help, especially when they're dealing with things like anxiety or stress. Even those small things, there's so many effective methods that can assist them to overcome those situations without being a burden on their own self or others within the family.
Thank you. Once again, I'd like to thank both Shailaja and Lalita for being here today and giving us a lot of important information.
Thank you.
Participants, COVID-19 has significantly altered our lives. At My Family Services, we firmly believe in supporting and assisting those who are going through tough times, especially in abusive situations. We are also helping the senior community tide through this crisis as well. On behalf of My Family Services, I would like to thank your support and prayers. We deeply appreciate our volunteers as well. As a community, I really hope we stick together and help one another out. Be extra cautious about your family members, neighbors, and friends who are going through tough times, especially with the uncertainty in the economic climate. Please email us at info@mifs.org or visit us at www.mifs.org if you'd like more information. Please be on the lookout for our next webinar, and stay safe and stay well. We'd like to remind you that even though you may be feeling lonely, you are not alone. Please take care, have a wonderful evening, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ananya. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Ananya, for setting this up. It's very appropriate. And, I also want to thank the people who attended for taking time out of their busy day to join us and support us. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ananya. Thank you, Shailaja. And thank you, Lalita.
Thanks, Mona.
Thank you, Mona.